Eddie Roman. Hello.
Hi,
How you
that's
doing?
me. Good.
Yeah. I'm glad
Yes.
that we could actually make this happen after Friday's fiasco of a tree falling on my power and internet lines.
That's right. You had a natural disaster out there.
Yeah, it was 25 minutes before we were supposed to connect and
hmm
start the podcast, and there it went. Didn't happen, but we're here now.
Glad it, glad it didn't land on your house.
That's true. Yeah, it went the opposite way. So we got lucky in that regard, but we're here and I'm excited to chat a little bit. I'm excited to say I watched all of Ride On yesterday.
Wow. Good job.
It was honestly, even today, still really, really good, both riding wise and
Huh.
everything else.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's good to hear. I hear a lot of guys say how great it is, but those are all guys like from the 90s. So it's great to hear someone who's seeing it for the first time say something like that. So
I
that's pretty cool.
I know it's a little sad to say that I'm seeing it for the first time, and
Oh, dude.
yeah,
There are many things that I have not seen in the BMX world, so it's okay.
that's fair. And I was watching it and I was hearing all of these things that were said that I've seen and heard people say that was
Funny.
like, "Oh wow, so that's where that came from," and I just never knew until today.
Yes, the origin of lots of stuff, lots of nonsense. Funny.
But it's also pretty amazing how even today, 33 years later, it's still people talk about it, still people
Hmm.
quote it. It's pretty amazing.
That's cool. Cool, man. Yeah, no, great to hear your perspective. Like I said, most of my life, people have been quoting stuff from Right On to me, so I'm just kind of used to it. So that's neat to hear that it's that you've been hearing it too, and you don't know where it came from. So it's kind of funny.
But that's like my favorite part about not knowing this stuff is that I didn't experience Ride On until after meeting the person who made it.
Yes.
I think that's fun.
Yeah.
I was also wondering throughout while watching, was this or was there times when you were filming where you were like setting out to, all right, I'm gonna film like this guy's gonna Vic's gonna go do this trick on this spot, or was it more just documenting where you were and what was happening at the time?
Man, I think for the most part, I just had my video camera with me all the time.
Mm,
And unlike today, we didn't have a place to show videos all the time. So, like, we didn't have YouTube. So, whatever I filmed, I either wouldn't watch it or, no one would see it for quite a while. And then I would just sit down and edit it one day and come out with the video. So, because of that, it really was just documenting what was going on. But at the same time, I was riding with the guys all the time. And so if I was with them at a ramp or something and I didn't have my camera with me and I saw them doing a trick that I really wanted to film, I might say, hey, let's go out this Saturday and film that again or whatever. And definitely in the places where I would set up lights or do stuff where it was more, you could tell that it was a planned thing. So yeah, a little bit of both. Definitely most just kind of going out and riding and filming what's going on, but definitely a little bit of planning here and there. Definitely the cheesy movie kind of stuff, at the end with the tombstone and stuff
mm.
like that. So there was a little planned stuff, and also the goofy guy with the clown bike, stuff like that. So there were things here and there. Probably as I got closer to either edit it or while I was editing it, and just thought, I want to do something right here for whatever reason. We'd go out and film specific stuff, but it was mostly just documenting what was going on.
Okay, and that makes sense. One thing that Victoria made a comment on while it was happening, while we were watching it last night, was that you guys in certain times were like in a business or whatever it might be, and she made a comment about how much bigger cameras were back then, so it was
Oh
like
yeah.
you had to be committed to the fact that you guys were doing this. There was no being like nonchalant about it.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And I think of that today. So like you know, even not just BMX, but in any kind of other film job, I'll be out in public and just realize, okay, I probably should use an iPhone or just something, just so we won't attract attention. You didn't have that option back then.
Mm-hmm.
If you were filming, everybody knew what you were doing, so it was very different. And even going back towards like aggro, man, I mean, I was using a huge camera, like the old TV news camera, which would have been like, you
Oh
know,
man.
huge on your shoulder. There's a cable running from it to another recorder, so like, it's a production, and so yeah, cameras have definitely gotten smaller, and it really is amazing nowadays how convenient it could be to where you pretty much have your camera with you all the time on your phone, and if something's going down, you could just film it immediately, you know. And a lot of TV shows actually will film stuff with iPhones nowadays, maybe not as their main camera, but
Mm.
they will use it when they need it, you know. So the quality on an iPhone now is just amazing. We would have never, you know, never thought it could get that good and that small. And even on a thing where most people, you know, who have an iPhone, it's not like they're using their camera all the time. It's just there,
Mm.
you know. Same with editing as well. Like when we used to edit, we'd have these big machines all over the room, and they were super expensive. And the first time I edited a video on a laptop on an airplane, I was just amazed because that's just not something you used to be able to do back then. So stuff's
Yeah,
changed a lot.
I can only imagine experiencing the way video editing used to be and then moving to the ability to be able to be on a laptop on an airplane and do that. Uh,
Yeah.
and to go a little bit back to the size of cameras and having to be committed to this stuff, like you also used to be able to get away with a lot more, I feel like, than you can today, in terms of like people are just like, oh, just get out of here. But if you try to do some crazy stuff and film it today, even with a phone, you can, I feel like you're more apt to get in trouble with things. Did you guys run into anyone who's like trying to run you off or anything?
It depends. I would say nowadays people know that bikes shouldn't be on, you know, in a business parking lot. Where back then, maybe it was like the beginning of security guards seeing people come on, and they might watch for a while and then realize, oh, they shouldn't be here. Where now it's just a more common thing. But we definitely would get kicked out of places. So we definitely, you know, had to plan our visits to whatever place
Yeah.
we're going to. But yeah, as far as that stuff goes, you know, the main thing that was different, I'd say back then, is you would see some black marks on a wall, and most people wouldn't know what they were.
Mm-hmm.
They were so rare. But nowadays, you know, it's like everybody knows those are bike tire marks or skateboard marks or something like that. And back then it was just more rare. So people probably didn't get in trouble as fast.
Yeah.
You would still get kicked out. It would just take a little longer, probably.
That makes sense. And so we kind of met and talked. Obviously, it would have happened at Ray's regardless, but Ride On was a bit of the inspiration for us talking. How much of how did you make videos before that one came out, or did you go straight to Ride On?
Yeah, no. So let's see. So back then, in high school, they had this brand new class called video production. And in
Mm-hmm.
my class in San Diego at Hoover High School, that was actually one of the schools where they first had video production. So like I'm pretty sure it's a common thing now, but back then they would have like photography class. And so they started doing a video class. So I took that, and right away I was making videos of my friends who happened to be guys like Matt Hoffman and Dave Volker and Vic Murray and all the early guys, Dave Mira, when he would come through town. And so right away I was filming stuff, and then it was just kind of natural to try to edit something and put it together and put it out. So let's see, right on, I think that was about my fifth video that I'd done. So I made the first video I made was actually for my high school class. As part of that same class, they would put out a video kind of show for the whole school once a month called Hoover Highlights. So Hoover was the high school. If you've ever seen that picture of Vic Murphy doing the one-footed tabletop off the curb,
Yeah.
that's a curb in front of Hoover High School.
Nice.
And so so I would do this show, part of the show that would go out to the whole high school. And I made this little goofy thing called Slick Rick. And so in aggro riding kung fu fighting, which is my first video, it's a mix of stupid kung fu movies where the mouth purposely doesn't match the words, just kind of to try to be like the old kung fu movies. It was a mix of that, and then BMX, which I would actually no, the show was just, it would be like a news show talking about what's going on in school, and then they'd throw in my kung fu movies in there. And so later I filmed a bunch of BMX stuff, a lot of flatland at Ron Wilkerson's house and just whatever was going on at the time. And so that footage got mixed with the kung fu footage of Slick Rick. And that was all filmed at the Home Avenue gutters as well, which is kind of funny. But so that became the first video I released, aggro riding kung fu fighting. That's on the trilogy DVD, kind of as a bonus thing. And so anyway, that was the first one, and then Aggro Man was the second one. Somewhere in there, I did a video for Ron Wilkerson, Ride Like a Man.
Oh, okay.
And then Matt Hoffman Head First, and then Ride On, I believe, was after that. And I did some other ones in there, shorter projects, little things, but those were probably the main ones that went out and were sold as VHS tapes. Those were the main ones I think that people remember and would have saw back then.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting that you kind of dove right in. I don't want to say dove head first, but
hey,
but you dove right into doing longer videos at that time, which is harder to do back then because it takes more time to edit.
Yeah, what's funny is before YouTube, people really didn't think about doing shorter videos. I mean, I don't know, maybe somebody did, but it was like you'd see a TV show, it was a half hour. People would come out with a skateboard video, it was a half hour. Everything was a half hour to an hour. So that was just like normal. And so it probably would have been a whole lot easier. But at the same time, the only distribution was really to sell home VHS tapes. And I don't think anyone would have wanted to buy a 5-minute home VHS tape, and so I think that was just kind of the way it worked back then. You'd go to Blockbuster Video and buy some kind of sports tape, and it would at least be a half hour. It'd be an hour normally if it wasn't a movie. But yeah, I guess just my mentality back then was it's got to be a half hour or it's not a real video or something like that. But no, that's a really interesting point. The things have changed now to where you throw something on YouTube and it's 3 minutes long, and as long as it's amazing, everyone's going to love it, But it was very different, kind of based on the media that people were used to at the time.
Or even talk about a 3-second clip on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yep. And it oftentimes those are the videos that will get the most views today, which is
absolutely
crazy to think about. And I had never made the connection between like how everything you would have seen or bought on a VHS tape would either be like a show or you're watching TV with a show that's 30 minutes long. So it naturally makes sense that that's the way it would have went.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's kind of like the same correlation between music back then and now. So back then, you would have had to buy an album that
Yeah.
had like 10 songs on it. You know, you would kind of put up with eight of the songs and really like two of them. Nowadays, they just put out a single song out, and everyone loves it. You don't have to listen to all this music you don't really like. And it's funny because I think of editing my videos back then, and for the most part, everything in it, every trick in it is good. At the same time, I always had a sense of, you save the best tricks for the end,
Mm.
to keep people watching, maybe put some really good stuff at the beginning, and just kind of, I don't know, just do it in a way to where people are going to want to keep watching it. But yeah, but nowadays you just get an amazing trick, you throw it out there, and it's over, which is great in a lot of ways.
It can be great. It sucks a little bit that it can get you all this attention. If you do that enough, that's great. But at the same time, it also dies with that moment because of the
Yeah.
fact that Instagram is it's not a search engine. It's impossible to
Mm.
go and find something again after you see it unless you know what the thumbnail image is and you can scroll 2 years back to find it. So
Yeah.
the longevity of things, and it's a topic that people have talked about endlessly in BMX.
Right.
It's pretty interesting though to think about the dynamic of like you were doing that because it's kind of was the only option, but today you
Yeah.
can do anything.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because even back then I did do some shorter things, but people really didn't see them
Mm,
because I didn't put them on a VHS tape, you know.
yeah.
So some little videos like that exist, but um, yeah, we didn't really have an outlet just to show stuff off like that.
Yeah. Did you feel like while you were making these things, did you like know how special they were going to become while it was happening at all?
No, I was just a guy filming my surroundings, and my
Mm,
surroundings were just, some of the best BMX riders in the world at the time.
yeah.
Yeah, and when I would release them, I would get an immediate sense of how much people liked them. So there definitely was that aspect, and the fact that a bunch of people were buying them, that definitely helped, me understand that they were a great thing. And another thing back then was you couldn't see the stuff in video because it wasn't on TV. There was no YouTube. You would see BMX tricks on video maybe in a commercial once in a while. So there was like this Mountain Dew commercial that's like the famous BMX commercial back then that had a bunch of guys riding freestyle in it.
Mm-hmm.
That was like one thing in that, years of seeing nothing. And you would see pictures in magazines. You would see sequence shots. So
Yeah.
it's like maybe 10 pictures. So you kind of get a sense of what the guy's doing. But for the most part, you just didn't see stuff on video. So when people did see it on my videos, on Mark Eaton's videos, and even some of like the early BMX Plus magazine videos, Rad TV, or different things like that, it was a big deal
Yeah.
because that was really the only place other than driving and going to see a show, or maybe going on your vacation to a skate park in California and trying to watch some stuff in person. You just wouldn't see the stuff on video. So it was super, in that aspect, looking back, it was definitely super special. I didn't think that at the time. I was just a guy filming and riding, but yeah, looking back, I realized that it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. When I did a podcast with Clint Miller from Australia, he talked
Mm,
about how when he was learning how to ride, they were behind because it takes so much time to get the videos from like over in the US. And
yeah,
when he would get videos in magazines, he thought that the stuff that he was seeing was just what everyone did. So he learned this stuff. And then when he came over here for the first time, everyone's like completely blown away at him doing some of the tricks he's doing, and he thinks it's normal because he doesn't know how much actually went into getting that stuff, and that those are like the best of the best.
Funny.
It was a really crazy perspective to hear that, like, whoa, he leveled himself up because he thought that was normal, when actually what he was seeing was the best guys doing their best stuff.
Yeah, that's funny because maybe I don't know, 10 years ago or so, I hadn't looked at BMX for quite a while, and then I was looking at it and checking out, even in my own neighborhood, at a skate park and stuff, and I was like, how are these little kids doing backflips? How are these, and
Yeah.
it was like, because back in my day, it would take like a year of getting your courage up before like you dare attempt the dreaded backflip.
Mm.
And now it's just like it's just normal. It's so funny.
It's pretty incredible, the progression of things. And once one person sees another person do something, now they realize it's possible and things level up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, another thing I noticed when I was watching Ride On last night is those sections where it was just trick after trick on that step up, but some of
Oh
them
yeah.
were super like silly things where it's like grabbing the top tube with both hands in the middle of
Right.
a combo or whatever it might be. But it got me thinking about how back then it was, you guys are probably doing that because you were just making it up, as like you were just doing it because that's what came to your mind. But kids
Yeah.
today have so much to see and be inspired by, but at the same time what they're seeing is so limited in comparison to just a blank slate of you making up whatever you can think of, that there is a lot of very similar riding, and a lot of people learn a lot of the exact same tricks, and that's a lot of what we see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That step up part, that was Chad Harrington, and he was a super creative guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and Matt Hoffman, he was the same way, where he would just make stuff up. A lot of, more in Matt Hoffman head first. We
Mm.
we would just go out at night, and I'd film, and he would just make stuff up, and I might suggest stuff. Try doing this, try sticking your hand here, or whatever, and he would just do it. And so much of it was just the creativity of the guys. But like you said, we were doing stuff that no one had seen before. And guys are still doing that today, but they definitely, there's a lot that's going on before them, you
Right.
know. But I still get blown away watching videos today, more of like just the intensity, So
Mm.
some of the guys I see riding bowls, I just think, man, how in the world could you ever do stuff like that? So it's
Yeah.
definitely awesome. But yeah, no, there's always been the more creative guys that aren't afraid to look stupid once in a while, as they're inventing some trick that's ridiculous. But out of all those ridiculous tricks is going to come something amazing,
Yep.
once in a while. So I've always definitely liked the guys who just are more on the creative side, even if not everything they do is amazing, but that's where new tricks come out of.
Yeah. Well, it's called freestyle for a reason, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I just had that realization while I was watching. I was like, man, so many people go out and already have an idea of what they want to learn. But it seemed like what you guys were doing was figuring out what you wanted or what could even be done.
Yeah, yeah, and it was all, and it was just all just having fun. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, it wasn't like there was a goal, especially during the ride on day. So before then, the goal would have been, there's a contest coming up. I want to do this stupid, and so there was definitely a lot of that kind of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But then after the contest kind of went away, it was just fun and creativity, and guys just messing around, and that was just all part of the free and freestyle.
Right, right. Yeah, I guess it just made me kind of hope that kids today still just like mess around with whatever they might be able to figure out. because that's how I grew up riding. Because, and everybody knows this who's listening to this, but I didn't watch videos growing up. All I knew was the
Yeah,
super.
You didn't watch Ride On till last night.
Yeah, exactly. Like all I knew was the superheroes who rode at my local skate park and what I would randomly see here and there online for the first several years of riding. And that's kind of what led to whatever you call what I do today. And it's just, I developed a sense of like, I'm just doing what comes to my head and what, like, while you're riding with someone like you who's filming or whatever. And oftentimes it's me being the person who's filming, like noticing those little nuances of an attempt. And you're like, hey, that almost worked, or you might be able to do this. And then something completely new comes out of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it takes a while for a person to get up to a skill level where they can try new stuff like that,
Yep.
And so and even, I've been watching some of your videos lately with your lip tricks and stuff, and your feet over. Do they still call them candy bars? Your feet
Yep.
going over.
Yep,
Okay.
they do.
So many old trick names have changed,
Yeah.
especially a lot of the ones that I invented. I don't even know what stuff is called anymore, which
We
is kind
should
of funny.
talk about
But
that.
yeah, but yeah, no, just in watching some of your videos, it's like, okay, this dude's pretty creative, but a lot of stuff he's doing, it's super hard. And so you can't try that stuff until you already have a certain skill level. So yeah, good stuff.
Thank you. It was really funny seeing you riding in there, and I was like, yo, I've done that. but but it wasn't because I had seen anyone do it before. It was just
Right.
randomly popped in my head. Like I can remember you did CrossFitted stuff. You'll get a kick out of this. I saw you do some CrossFit stuff in there. I remember figuring out in my driveway that I could go cross-footed, having never seen it before. I remember figuring that out. And then I realized that I could stick my foot directly from being crossfoot into the tire and go into like a whiplash. And
Nice.
I remember as soon as I figured out that I could get my foot in the tire, I called my neighbor, who's the guy who got me into BMX, and I told him about it. And I told him that I could do this trick or I would be able to learn it. And I remember him just being like, nah. But it was funny to see in your part in the video where you're doing a bunch of CrossFit stuff. And it's like, fast forward to me learning how to ride. What is it? It was 92. It would have been 14 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of doing some of the CrossFit similar type stuff that you were doing. It was like, that's so crazy how that can work.
You invented it again.
For myself.
You know what, that's actually why I don't make a big deal about who invented what trick or that kind of thing. Even like going back to the wall ride. So as far as I remember, I'm the first guy to ever do a bank to wall. So riding off a bank or off a jump and riding on a wall.
Yep.
I saw a guy do a bunny hop to wall before that. But then I was just listening to a interview with Craig Campbell, and he's talking about when he was a younger guy, he saw an old racer do a bunny hop to wall ride, and this is something that was years before anyone even thought about a wall ride. So because of that, and even in my neighborhood, there were guys when I first started riding, just like these legendary neighborhood guys. So
Yeah.
like, there's one guy I remember. All I remember about him is that he never wore a shirt and he had super long hair and he just jumped off of everything. And there's like legends around the neighborhood about him riding on a fence or doing this stuff like, and it's like, I don't know, maybe I was the first guy to do something. Maybe I wasn't. And so I'm definitely not going to make a big, huge deal about that. Yeah, but it is true. People get creative and they just make stuff up and they do stuff that someone else has done before. And, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It's fun. That segment of things can be so divisive when you talk about
Yeah.
ABDs and all that other craziness. And for me, I try not to touch like NBDs, never been done. I try not to like talk and claim things because,
MBD, I like that.
yeah, never
Yeah,
been done.
that's okay.
I used to think that stood for no big deal. For
Mm.
years, I would read captions or descriptions on videos. And so there's like three NBDs in here. And I used to think that meant no big deal.
Man, this is so funny. This just shows how old I am because I've never heard that term before until right
Oh,
now.
that's
So
funny.
there
Yeah.
you go. This thing's called the internet, right? This thing we're on right now. So
Yeah. Tim
okay,
Berners-Lee, I think, is that who invented it? Something like that.
sure.
Anyways, but I try to avoid claiming things very often because you, like you're saying, you really can never know if somebody did it or not. It has to be so incredibly out there for me to be like, yeah, I'm fairly certain nobody would have ever done this before.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
you mentioned trick names changing. I would love
Mhm.
to hear some of them that you can think of that like you had a different name for that you guys called it and is different today. Because even regionally, tricks are called different things
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Well, the main one that comes to mind is the half cab, and so that would be rolling backwards. It's funny, I didn't even name it back then. I think I just said, yeah, I'm doing a rolling backwards bunny hop to rolling forwards thing. So like that was the name, and it was really a name. It was just what I did. And so yeah, years would go by, and I would see in a video or someone does a trick and someone calls it a half cab.
Yeah.
And I was like, half cab? What is that, like a half a cappuccino? Is that a coffee thing? But no, and then it's like, okay, that's Steve Caballero. He's a skater, which is funny because I was never into skateboarding um as far as copying what skaters did.
Mm,
So I was around skateboarding. Obviously, I grew up in Southern California. I rode in skate parks, but I never got into the skate culture, never rode a skateboard until, years later after riding BMX. I was bored for a while and I picked up a skateboard because a good friend of mine was skating. So I did in that sense, but I really didn't know what the names were of any tricks. I was never into it. So, um, and I had heard something funny about Steve Caballero being mad that the BMX version was called a half cab, which made me laugh. But yeah, so that would probably be the main one that a lot of people know about. The Ninja Drop, that's something that I think it's still the same name. So I invented that.
yeah.
Let me see. Boy, I don't know. I made up so many like foot plant and wall plant variations
Mm-hmm.
that I think the Ninja Drop's the only one that ever kind of stuck around. I'm sure people still do, you know, some of the goofy stuff I did, but it might be them just making it up for the first time and not even realizing
Yeah.
they're doing it. Man, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what people still do that I used to, wall ride. I guess that's that's one.
Yeah.
That name hasn't changed, I don't think.
No, I don't think
Uh,
so.
yeah, I don't know, man. I would have to, it'd be fun to do like a video where I look at all this stuff and try
That
to
would be
remember
funny.
if it had old names. But yeah, I'm not very good when it comes to the intricacies of the history of BMX because man, I'm the worst. First of all, when it comes to like names and dates and stuff, people will show me a video of me at a contest, and I have no idea like where it was or
Oh,
what year
that's
it was.
funny.
So I don't know if that's just part of me getting old or me not ever caring in the first place. But yeah, so I know the Ninja Drop is still good, and then chasing your bike. I think that might still be called the same if anyone does
Did
that.
that
I
have a
saw
name?
some guys on like the cruisers doing that. The like the Cruiser Willie clan,
Yeah.
those guys. I saw someone running off their bike and chasing it and jumping back on.
Did
like I
that?
used to do. That was kind of funny,
I
but
I can't remember if
I don't know.
that's like had a proper name that I would know it by or not. Either way,
Chasing your bike.
what about like some jumping tricks, you know, cuz like the T-bog, grabbing the seat and turning the bars, that's what we called that
Oh,
today.
okay. So that was called toboggan.
Yeah,
That's
T-bog is
I guess
short
that
for toboggan.
yes. That makes sense.
X-ups, I feel like I've heard people call them cross-ups.
So cross up was when you turn your bars halfway. That's a cross up, and then
Ah,
X is when your arms are basically in an X
the polite
kind of
way
thing.
for an unclicked X-up. Gotcha.
Unclicked X. Yes, cross up. Well, no, doing a cross up was a big event back then. Just getting your bars straight. Because what if you land like that? You're just gonna die.
Oh yeah.
So very dangerous.
Uh,
Yeah.
was a bar hop always a bar hop where both feet
Yep.
double candy bar basically?
Yep.
And then because of motocross, knack knack, it makes sense.
Yeah, that was Jeremy McGrath. I believe he
Mm-hmm.
did that before BMX guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, tabletop. Those are still called
Yeah.
tabletops, right?
Yeah. Tuck
Invert.
tuck no hander was probably another one.
I don't think we used to call them tuck. We would just say invert. Invert tabletop. I don't know, because tuck would just be you just jump and you just tuck like behind your seat.
Yeah.
That would be getting
I,
tucked.
I was saying tuck no hander, where you pull the bars
Yeah,
into
we
your
didn't.
lap and take your hands off.
Yeah, we no one did those back then. I guess they kind of did, but I see them today and they're like super tucked.
Yeah. Well, there's one
Very different style.
Kurt Schmidt posted the one on the flyout jump that's at the beginning of Ride On where he's doing a 360 tuck no hander.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that wasn't common. So yeah, no, he that was definitely his style back
I
then.
wonder if he called it a tuck no hander back then. I'll have to ask him.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That was the thing too about watching it, man. There's so much stuff in there that even today is impressive to see. The one
Mhm.
was a 360 tire tap to no-footed nose pick to fakie on the quarter right at the beginning of the video. I saw
Hmm.
that and I was like, dude, that's still, and whoever did that did it fast.
Was that Dennis McCoy maybe? It
Uh,
might have been.
it sounds like that from what I remember, it sounds like it would have been a similar ramp setup to when his name
Mhm.
was there. But he did it so fast and so fluidly that even seeing someone do it at the same pace today would be really impressive.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
think.
that's why I filmed it. It
Yeah.
was good.
It's so cool that you got to be there and experience basically like ground zero for the beginning of people really pushing freestyle BMX.
Yeah, I guess I'm what's called second generation. So first generation would have been like Eddie Fiola, Mike Dominguez,
Mm-hmm.
Brian Deem, and all the skate park guys. And then, of course, Bob Harrow and R.L. Osborne, Mike Buffs on the ground tricks. And so, yeah, they basically just amazed us all with doing stuff, and then we all took it from there and started pushing it. And every generation, has pushed it harder. When I went to Ray's last month, that was a lot of fun just to see how good everybody is, other
Yeah.
than me, because I don't ride as much anymore. But it was just so much fun just to see how far it's progressed. But yeah, no, I was definitely there at the beginning of, man. I was. It's funny because back when I was riding, guys were still riding coaster brakes, and there
Uh-huh.
weren't a lot of them. I was one of the last guys, last coaster brake holdouts. But yeah, I think things were definitely ground level, where you had the beginning of rolling tricks and you had the beginning of combinations. Even me, it's funny, when I first started dirt jumping, dirt jumps were basically, you would pedal or come down some kind of big hill, and then there'd be one jump, and
Yeah.
you'd go off that jump, and do whatever you can, and then you'd land, and that was it. You were done.
Yeah.
And even when the rhythm sections came in, I had a horrible time with that. First of all, because I had a coaster break, but secondly, because it was so different that than what I was used to, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so much of it was just kind of starting out back then, you know.
Riding a set of jumps with a coaster brake had to be so dangerous.
You know what? I used to ride in skate parks with coaster brake a lot, and so I'd ride the half pipe at Del Mar, and I never became a great skate park rider, but I definitely rode a lot just with coaster brake, you know, and rolling into super vert bowls and just doing all the normal
That's
stuff that
scary.
everybody did. The coaster brake. I probably could have done so much better if I'd had a free will.
Yeah, that's
But
dangerous.
yeah,
Any foot
it's
movement.
fun stuff. Yeah. And then you know what though? I'm pretty sure that's why I was able to do the not the half cab, but the rolling backwards bunny hop 182 rolling forward thing.
That's what I'm gonna call it from now on.
That's right.
I'm gonna
Good. It'll
I'm gonna
take you a while.
I'm gonna
But
film a clip at Ray's this week with a half cab in it, and I'm gonna call it that in my caption.
appreciate that. Um, yeah, but even with so many rolling tricks, like so, rolling backwards downstairs and any kind of like 180 um out of rolling backwards. I'm just trying not to say half cab because it's so much easier just to say half cab.
Yeah,
But so funny. But yeah, just coaster break, man. I think you should bring it back.
I don't know. Trevor borrowed one from Brett Downs and rode it for a little
Funny.
while and took it off because he said it was just like too easy to like get your
Die.
feet off. Yeah, to just completely blow up.
So
Um,
funny.
I remembered something I was trying to figure out years ago. I don't know if we ever ended up figuring it out, but maybe you would have some insight on this because you were saying how dirt jumping started as like going down a hill and hitting one jump and landing. I was trying to figure out where the first ever like actual set of dirt jumps was.
Oh, dude, I have no idea. That would be a BMX racing question.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, dirt jumping started out of BMX racing. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like what is that video? Joe Kid on a Stingray.
Mm-hmm.
You know who you could ask about that is Perry Kramer. I know I have a friend named Perry Cremins was a manager for Skyway.
Oh, okay.
Perry Kramer was a PK Ripper. So you might ask him, Stu Thompson, those guys. They might actually know. That would be a great question.
Yeah, I would just love to hear like there's probably a couple different answers for like the first time someone put multiple dirt jumps in a row and then also like the first real set of trails where it's like in the woods, it's purpose built rhythm jumps where you don't, they're not like 100 feet apart and you're pedaling 100 feet in between them or whatever.
Yeah. Now I would ask the racers. They would be able to answer that. I would
Somebody,
think.
somebody who's watching will know.
Somebody will make it up. So,
Yeah. Well, it was like there's a set of not a set now it's a set of trails in Ohio called coasters in Dayton that they have a 50-year history,
wow.
but it started as what you talked about where it's like it was a big hill and it was just the natural terrain of the hill that they
Yeah.
were they were riding and then it developed into being jumps.
Yeah, in San Diego, there's Mission Trails,
Mhm.
which is in Ride On. That's in Ride On where it's like Matt Hoffman doing his backflip on dirt jumps.
Yeah.
That whole contest center that had been there for a long time as trails, but people would build jumps on it. So yeah, I don't know how long that one's been there. Yeah, good question. Go
We'll
in
find
search
out.
of do like an archaeological dig and go find the first ever dirt jump.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We find it, go and dig
So,
it up, try and
yes.
somehow recreate it. Who
Yep.
was it that did the bar hop double saran wrap?
That's Chad Harrington.
Okay, I wasn't sure
Yeah.
because that was like at the beginning there was an attempt and then later more attempts.
Yeah. No, that was Chad. He was the guy who tried all the crazy dirt jump variations at Honda Hills. So that's that place with the step up jump.
Okay.
Honda Hills in San Diego. Yeah, he was known for that. He rode for Hoffman Bikes for a while, and then he was a officer. Let me make sure I get this right. He was a border officer,
Oh, Border
Department of
Patrol.
Department of Homeland Security.
Oh
So
wow.
he did that for years. Yeah, and he's still he makes on Instagram, you can find him, has no talent, and he makes like figurines. Like he'll make you a
Mm.
Star Wars figure or something like that. He's always been a super artistic guy. So not just with his writing, but even after he got out of BMX, he became an actual archaeologist, to where he was
Wow.
out digging stuff up, and he's always been a just an artist. So yeah, that's someone you want to, maybe check him out. Has no talent.
That's super interesting.
He
I'm gonna have
actually
to look
he
that
actually has he has talent, but
up.
he says he doesn't.
Another thing that I was impressed by, or at least noticed how difficult it probably had to be, was some of the graphics and stuff at the beginning of the video. Like the
Hmm.
cog wheel spinning. I was like, oh, today, that's probably not crazy to do, but back then that had to be difficult.
The cogwheel spinning. Remind me of that. I'm
There's
so sorry.
two sprocket looking cogs that rotate with like static in them that go
Yeah. Okay.
into each
So
other up the screen.
no. Yeah. Okay. So that's a funny story, actually. So back then, um, you were very limited on the video editing software you could get,
Yeah.
and there was this one program. It was like it was a computer and software kind of bundled together. It was called the Video Toaster. And
Mm.
so the Video Toaster had some kind of pre-done graphics in it that you would never use, but the sprocket was one of them. So that was a transition in there. Another one where you might see every great once in a while in old videos, and I have no idea why this was a transition, but it would be a bunch of sheep would like fall down the screen and then cover up the screen and then go back up. And it's like the most random stuff, the sheep transition. But
Wow.
yeah, that was the Video Toaster. And so if you were an editor like in the early '90s, you probably would have had a Video Toaster at some point. There were only really, man, like three or four options for video editors back there. You had the Media 100, which was kind of like the precursor to um, not Apple's stuff,
Okay.
but and this is before non-linear editing existed.
You
So like
had
this
to
is like,
edit in order, the people.
yeah, well, you basically had two VCRs, and they were connected, and so between those two, it was everything was a physical machine
Yeah.
with physical tape, and there was a new machine with new tape, and that's what the video was being recorded onto. So it was kind of more similar to when you see old videos of like people splicing movies together
Mm.
towards a physical piece of tape. But yeah, computers changed everything in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
We don't
Some
have
good.
to add anymore.
Yeah. Some good, some bad.
Yeah.
So for me, video started with my parents buying one of the first like digital cameras and it had a video feature on it. Did your parents get a camera and you just used it, or did you know you wanted to film and so you got one, or how'd that work?
Yeah. So very similar. My dad got the first VHS camera in my
Mm,
neighborhood. And so yeah, I don't know, he just liked tech stuff. So back then tech was a VHS camera. He got that. He was filming old home movies, and so he would let me borrow it. And that's what aggro riding and kung fu fighting was filmed on. And that probably got me interested. I was already into still photography at the time, so I was already into
okay.
cameras. And then when they offered the video class at my high school, I just jumped right in. So yeah, just a lot of fun. BMX video back then was kind of limited to at the contests, maybe a sponsor like Vision Streetwear or GT Bicycles, they would hire a video production company to come out, and so you would get the video of that contest, which might later make it into a video like I don't know, there was like some King of the Skate Parks contests
Yeah.
done, but yeah, again, for the most part, it was rare to see at least a lot of BMX video stuff, other than like a specific contest kind of thing. But yeah, my interest definitely started with my dad and his video camera.
Pretty crazy how, parents having a camera could lead to all these years later, you still do video related stuff.
Yeah, it's like as if our parents can influence us.
Weird.
Yeah.
So you went on to make a whole bunch more videos that I'm not gonna lie,
Mhm.
I haven't seen yet, but I'm
It's
excited to.
okay. I forgive you. It's okay.
But everybody talks about Aggro Man, which
Yeah.
is this like the more you're making videos, are you realizing like, oh, people are buying these, I'm just gonna keep doing it?
Um, I don't know. That definitely played into it. I think there came a point where video was just part of my writing, to
Mm,
where it was just a part of it. It was just fun, and I just wanted to record stuff. Like I'd be out riding, and someone would do something amazing, and I'd want to film it.
yep.
Just because it's awesome. And so that's kind of how it was. But yeah, after starting to sell them and realizing that people wanted them, it just made me want to do it more. So if anything, it just made it funner. I never got rich off that stuff, but it definitely made it possible for me to like go out and buy some better equipment,
Mm.
um, buy better cameras, and that kind of thing, to be able to travel a little bit. So yeah, it just kind of became part of the deal. And then after Ride On, GT Bicycles, they saw Ride On, they liked it a lot, and then they hired me to do video stuff for them. And so that eventually led to me doing a TV show for them called Crank, which was kind of one of the first action sports TV shows. I think it was before the X Games, but I'm not sure. It was more like a weekly thing on Fox Sports Network. It had BMX and mountain biking and some motocross, kind of anything that GT was into as
Yeah.
far as like their line of bikes. But then we would throw in a motocross thing just to make it exciting, kind of thing. But yeah, what was I talking
Yeah, just kind
about?
of the progression of making videos and
Mm,
things. That's really interesting though, because
yeah.
it's an example of GT marketing their stuff to everyone who's watching TV, and not just like a big thing I've been talking about a lot is that people BMX just markets to BMX, but I I don't know if anyone could say whether or not anyone came to GT and was like, "Hey, we need a show," or if it was GT having the mindset of like, "Oh no, we're going to make a show and that's how we're going to sell stuff."
I'm pretty sure. So I wasn't in on all the business dealings back then, but I'm pretty sure it was their idea.
Which would make sense.
We would make commercials once in a while, so just 30-second commercials, and those would end up on some kind of sports show. And so I think they did that a few times, and then they just said, we should just do our own thing. And so that became, yeah, it became a TV show called Crank, to where it was really one of the first um, kind of X Games type of shows where you'd have a narrator, and he's in some set, and it's really cool looking, and he's like, hey, let's go check out this dude in this skate park, and then it cuts over to this segment that I filmed over in Arizona or something, and it's like 3 minutes long. And then after that, you're back in the studio. Hey, let's go check out Joe on his mountain bike, and then it's a segment with him, and it really was one of the first, not just BMX, but just kind of action sports shows. So
Wow.
yeah, no, GT definitely they did a lot as far as marketing. Obviously mostly to the BMX crowd, but they definitely, were putting themselves out there and just trying to find new people who never heard of it before.
Can that still be watched as Crank on TV or on the internet somewhere?
I think so.
We'll have to find that out.
Yeah,
Someone will know.
yeah. Somebody was asking me the other day, and I was like, I don't know, man. Probably. I hope so. There was some good stuff on Craig too. Just these little segments, of like a ramp or a pool or something. So it's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah, and even on that note of like stuff finding its way online, just us talking sounds like you have a lot of the stuff you've made still.
Yeah. I just started. I just started my YouTube channel. I'm a little late, but
Hey,
I
I'm glad
started.
we can make that happen.
I just put a ride on and Matt Hoffman head first out there, and so yeah, I'm slow, but I'm getting it done, and that was actually because of Brant here encouraged me. He's like, man, there's this thing called YouTube,
You
and
might
you
have
should
heard of it.
put some. So yeah, it's fun just reading comments and kind of reconnecting with some guys I haven't heard from in a long time. So yeah, um, what's it called? Eddie Roman YouTube channel? I don't even know what
It's
it's called.
literally just Eddie Roman.
Eddie Roman, there you go. So
You may
I'm on
add
there.
like BMX to it or something because when I tried to find Ride On, your upload of it last night on the TV to
Mhm.
watch it, I
Yeah,
literally couldn't find it by searching, and I had to find your upload of Head First in my subscription feed,
funny.
then go to your channel, then get to Ride On.
Okay,
So I don't know if there's some kind of way once your stuff starts making it into like the algorithm of when people search and they start watching
right.
your copies of things. And that was my whole point of like trying to get you to do it is because there's already uploads on YouTube that are from other people. You might as
Right.
well, if I mean, you own this stuff and you have the best versions of it that anyone has, you might as well have those views and eventually maybe some ad revenue go to you in
Yeah.
this day and age.
Yeah, no, I did notice that. I was watching another video that someone had posted, and the quality was just horrible. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, no, definitely, it's out there now.
How
Eddie
much more do
Roman
you
on YouTube.
have?
Um, I don't know, a lot. I mean, Agro Man still is waiting in my drawer somewhere.
That's
But
exciting.
yeah, no, I got a bunch, but yeah,
I'm not
we'll
watching
see.
Aggro Man until it's on your channel.
Ooh, thank you. Yeah,
Is
that's so funny. It's so great to be talking to someone who's well known in BMX who's never seen Aggro Man. It's awesome. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there.
younger ones
But
probably.
yeah, well, no, it's funny because yeah, obviously it was a long time ago. Most people who started riding within the last 10 years or whatever haven't seen it. And Vic Murphy, he makes it his life's mission. Whenever he meets someone new, he forces them to watch aggro.
That's
So
funny.
it's kind of funny.
Is that why you guys
Yeah.
watched it when you were in Cleveland?
Oh man, that was hilarious. No, that was a bunch of dudes who'd seen it before, and they just wanted to watch it, and we were just laughing because it's so stupid, but it was funny at the same time. But yeah, that was fun.
Maybe I'll wait to watch it until you guys come back and we could do another
Mm,
showing of it.
there you go, dude. We'll do a live showing. What do they call it when everyone watches something at the same time
A
as a
premiere?
group? Premiere? No, we'll do a premiere
A
after
watch
like
party?
watch party. There you go. See, I'm learning all the internet terms. Watch party.
Yeah. Is there anything that you have that like no one would have ever seen?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it'd be worth watching. I mean, I have, raw footage that kind of never made it into a video, but the reason it never made it because it wasn't that good. You know what I mean?
People would
So
watch it.
probably
Eddie Roman raw tapes.
so boring. But hey,
People go
it brings
crazy.
that's true. Yeah, no, it'd be fun. Maybe I'll have to. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, there's probably some things that people, friends of mine locally would have seen that never made it onto like a VHS 30-minute tape that might be worth throwing out there. So
You
yeah,
know what would
maybe.
be really, really cool is if
What?
you had some of these old tapes that haven't been watched in forever, and then you
Hmm.
have like Vic or somebody there, and you just record a video of like you guys watching it and talking over and giving context, or even, raw footage of stuff from these videos.
Reaction videos.
Yeah.
Vic and Eddie react to how stupid Agro Man is.
that would be that'd be fun.
Okay, I'll consider that.
I
That
mean,
would
if
be
you're
funny.
into it.
Sure,
I just think
got nothing better to do.
the backstory and the context that you can't get from like just a video with music in it.
Right.
Like, oh, I
No, that could be
remember
fun.
this day. This guy got arrested and somebody got punched in the face or whatever
Hmm.
happened.
Yeah, no, that could be fun.
Yeah.
I'll think about. I'll ponder that one.
Random ideas that pop into my head.
Yes. Yep.
Interesting. So you're making videos for GT, making the
Hmm.
crank, or working on it with them.
Yes.
What comes next?
Okay. So let's see. I did that for a while. In 1992, I became a Christian, and so right away, someone at this new church I was going to, they asked me if I would shoot some video for them in the country of Sudan. And so that began about 8 years of me going in and out of a active war zone, um, crossing borders illegally and secretly using airplane pilots that were basically pirates. They'd smuggle in um, drugs for someone someday, and they smuggle in Bibles to a country the next day. It just they're taxis. They'll take you wherever you want to go if you pay them enough. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I did. I ended up being a videographer and photographer for a Christian relief agency, and so that meant we were taking in medicine and food into famine zones, which usually are war zones. And so I got to find it somewhere. I used to have a passport for the Sudanese rebel army, so I can
Whoa.
go into this war zone and not be thought of as a spy. So yeah, fun stuff. Not your average church experience,
I,
but
I'm over
yeah.
here
Did that
like,
did that for is that your first time hearing this?
yes, that's
But
insane.
yeah, so what was really crazy about it is so my background doing low budget BMX stuff, being used to dealing with dirty cameras and keeping the dirt out of your camera, um, and just doing everything on a low budget, that translated very well into the middle of a desert in sub-Saharan Africa, dealing with video and cameras and all this stuff. Yeah, and did that for about 8 years. I videoed slave trades, like real slave trades, where the basically Islamic government, which was trying to genocide the entire country, they would come into this area of the country and steal children, and then they'd take them back to the north and sell them as slaves. We got involved with a ministry that would buy back the slaves for their parents, and so I got to videotape some of this stuff. But yeah, if you've never videotaped a slave trade before, it's very exciting. But crazy stuff. And then we would buy them back and then give them back to their parents.
How
So
do you
crazy
video
stuff.
that? And just like, are you hiding the camera? Like,
No, okay, no, that's a great question. So they're these guys, the slave traders, basically, um, just like the pirate airplane pilots, they just care about money. Like that's it.
uh,
And so they don't care if they're selling a slave to a horrible person or the child's grandma. They just want money. And so what we would do, so these slave traders, they would make contact with people back in the village where like a raid went through or something. So the slave trader isn't the guy who stole the slave. But what would happen is, so funny talking about this. There would be an area like okay, so let me see if I can do this quickly. So imagine a country. The north half has declared war, basically genocide on the southern half of the country. And so you have people from the north coming in the middle of the night, raiding villages on horseback and killing the men, raping the women, stealing the children. And then they take the children, who are now going to be the slaves, back into the north. So this is in the Sudan, the country of Sudan, in the 90s is when all this stuff is happening. It's still kind of happening today. It's different now. Governments kind of take each other over and they change. But anyway, so when I was there, that's what was going on. And so you have the people in the South who are mainly either Christians or just kind of like animists, just people living their lives. There's Muslims there too, but they're just people who just are living their lives. And you have the Northern Islamic government who's declared Sharia law, and they're basically forcing the entire country to become Muslims, and they're using force to do that. And so they come into these villages and kill everyone and take all their stuff and take the people back for slaves. So now you have all these children back in the north who are slaves. And then these slave trader guys who are just businessmen, they talk to the people in the north. They say, hey, you got these 5 kids. I know someone in the south who's willing to buy them. And anyway, so that's how the slaves and the slave trader come back down south. So it's not like, at least it didn't seem like it was dangerous. It's not like you have guns pointed at you or anything.
okay.
This guy's just more like a mule. He's a transport guy. If he doesn't sell the slaves, or if he gets attacked or something, there's going to be repercussions for whoever does that to him. It's horrible. But anyway, whatever you do, don't get stolen as a slave, because it's not fun.
That just
There you
blew my
go.
mind. Okay, so are
Yeah,
you riding it all through these 8 years or?
yeah, I actually took my BMX bike and did shows in the Sudan and different places, um, just for fun. So like part of the thing we did a Christian outreach. So we would take the Jesus film, which is it's basically a film of Jesus's life, and we would show it to crowds of people. Um, but when we do it, so it's basically like a big church service, and it's fun. There's games and stuff sometimes, and so I'm in this. I'm doing this ministry stuff. I'm filming, and I'm really not riding my bike much anymore because I'm so involved in this. Somewhere along the way, one of the guys I work with going to Africa, he's watching the X Games just randomly. And I think it was Steve Swope. He's announcing someone just did a ninja drop. And Steve Swope says, "That's a ninja drop. It was invented by Eddie Roman." And he starts going on. And my friend's like, "Eddie, is he talking about you?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And my friend convinces me to take my BMX bike over to Sudan in the middle of this war zone. do tricks. And so I did. I got my bike and put it in a bike box, and it wasn't just Sudan. It was just kind of in Uganda, a bunch of different places. So I would do shows. So yeah, I was the best BMX rider they ever saw because I was the only BMX rider they ever saw. So like we were doing shows in places where the only kind of bike these people had ever seen was like this Chinese issued black
Mm.
cruiser. And if you ever saw a bicycle in your entire life growing up in this place, it would have been that bike. So to see my bike, a 20-inch yellow, it was a Hoffman, it was a Condor um, bike at the time. You know, people were just tripping out. They called me the man on the donkey bike because like I would do like hops and stuff,
Yeah.
and they didn't know they didn't know what I was doing. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, did shows in the war zone. It's great.
Dude, that is blowing my mind. So, do you think there's a generation of BMX riders in Africa that came from like anyone who ever saw you that was like,
Oh,
I want to do that?
I know there's one kid who hates me because I was in this refugee camp. Oh, this is so bad. I'm in a refugee camp and I didn't have my bike with me. And one of the guys I was with, he sees this kid riding a bike and he's like, "Hey, um, can this guy do some tricks on your bike?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't want to ride that thing. It just looks like some super cheap bike." And my friend's like, "No, do it." And so this kid gives me my bike, and I start doing like I did like some rock walks and some stuff, and I go to bounce on this kid's tire, and the entire rim just folds in half like a
Oh,
taco. And so here's this kid, he's like living in poverty in a
oh,
refugee camp, and I just destroyed the only source of joy he's ever had.
oh
So
no.
I felt so bad. And on top of that, the entire crowd, it's like 1,000 kids. They just start laughing at this kid, you know? And so it was
Oh
horrible.
no.
So I immediately went and talked to this kid's mom through a translator because I can't speak whatever language they're speaking. And we went to the store and I bought this kid a brand new bike. So he made out, but
Yeah.
it was pretty funny. But no, there definitely were kids who after I left, they were trying to do stuff on their bike. So fun stuff.
Wow. So basically, all those flatland videos of the people who are on the dirt doing flatland tricks came from Eddie Roman 20 years
Ah,
ago.
I might have had something to do with that. You know, I'm sure there's other guys who've influenced that.
What?
But no, yeah, I was pretty good at doing tricks on a dirt floor,
That's so
dirt stuff.
incredible. So, did
I've
you?
seen, you know what though? That's funny because I've seen some awesome videos from like Africa and different places
Yeah.
where guys are just good, you know?
Well, there was one
So,
video that was
oh,
like viral, 20 years ago, even
hmm,
that of, and I'm sure we've all seen it, but I don't know if it was Africa or not, but it looked like it could have been.
yeah, that was my student. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
That's
no,
funny.
fun stuff.
My goodness. Any more crazy surprises in the story after that?
Man, I don't know, man. Just going to Africa was crazy. I mean, it really was crazy. There was this one morning where so GT had given me some bikes for this whole venture. That it was like their donation to because I mean we really were doing a lot of good stuff. Like literally feeding starving people who were like their whole village was just dying, and
Yeah.
so a lot of good charity. And so GT had donated some cruisers with these little trailers on the back. And so we would go from village to village, like giving out food and medicine and stuff. But this one, and this is just kind of just how it was there in Africa, just like the mentality people. This one morning, some friends of mine, they're on these GT cruisers and they got them loaded up and they're about to head out through this grass path. And I asked one of the locals, I say, you know what? Do these guys got to be worried about like wild animals, like lions and stuff like that? And this guy, and he was being totally serious. This local, he says, no, they're going that way. The lion is that way. They'll be fine if they go that way.
Wow.
And so that was just kind of the way guys were there. And people would definitely get attacked by animals all the time, but they're like, ah, it's fine. So my friend didn't get attacked by a lion that day, so it was good. But
Gosh.
no, man, Africa was you know, it was wild, just like on the Discovery Channel.
Yeah, everything you're saying is just crazy. I can't
You know
imagine.
what? I actually, oh man, all these memories come back. I actually accidentally filmed a guy, a dead body of a man who had gotten eaten by a crocodile on the Nile River. We were we
Whoa.
were we went on this Nile River cruise, and before we get on, this guy is telling me that they've been looking for one of the workers who was missing since a couple of nights ago. They can't find him, and they don't know where he is. And so anyway, later on the boat, we're on this boat, and then over on the side, there's all this commotion. There's a crocodile, and he's in a spin doing stuff, eating something. And so I start filming it, and then I come to realize, oh my goodness, that's a human.
Oh
And it
no.
it was this guy from a few days before. This crocodile was eating. It was horrible, and I was filming it, and I didn't even understand. So anyway,
Whoa.
I ended up giving the video to the local police, and they figured out it was the guy, and it was pretty sad. But yeah, Africa's different.
Wild place, man.
Yeah,
That is insane. So
it's supposed to be a BMX interview, isn't
I know
it?
this is an Eddie interview.
I
Uh,
guess so.
8 years go by. Like, at what point did you? Because you were pro, you rode for
Mhm,
Skyway and other
mhm.
companies. So, at what point did you had already transition from being a pro at that point before Africa?
Yeah. So, man, it was in the late 80s. I forget the exact year. Like I said, I'm horrible with the stuff, but really came down to Skyway. Um, I was pro for them, riding around, touring, the whole thing. They're sending us on world tours and American tours. And then around nine, I guess it must have been around 90, 91, they had to let go of their whole team. And all the teams were letting go of their teams. And the magazines stopped, you know, print magazines. There were a bunch of them, and then there were none. And so yeah, just the economy basically crashed for a bunch of different reasons. I don't remember all the reasons. I was a teenager at the time. I didn't care. I didn't pay attention to world news. But yeah, the average American parent stopped being able to buy extra stuff, so they couldn't buy BMX parts for their kids anymore. And so that was kind of the gist of it. And so I went from being a sponsored rider to just getting free frames from a couple different companies, and then eventually it was just like no one had anything to give to anybody, and riders started making their own parts and bikes and that kind of thing. And there were always some companies that still flowed, like Haro and GT. I even remember getting a frame from Chris Moeller at S&M, and
Nice.
there were always guys who still gave out stuff. The guys who were still into it just for the love of the sport, or the companies that were just so big that they just kind of never went away during that time.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was really it. So that was so even when I made Ride On in '92, I was no longer sponsored by anyone, but
Okay.
still just doing it just out of the love of the sport and just fun.
Yeah.
And just it was so much a part of my life. It wasn't like, okay, I guess I'll just forget about all this stuff and go do something else. It was still there. There was really no reason to quit 100%. It's just something I just kept doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nobody told you it was dead. That's why.
That's right.
So that means you kind of lived right through the change of bikes from being like falling apart every time you're going through forks on a monthly basis and whatnot, or at least people were, to
Yeah.
the more robust stuff that people like Standard and S&M started to make at that time. So like, was it a consideration before those things that you guys were like, man, these bikes just keep breaking? Is there something that could be better? Or did you even care? You're just riding.
The best illustration, the best thing I remember of that was Matt Hoffman. And so my bikes were always good. Skyway always made good stuff, at least while, for what I was doing while I was riding it.
Yeah.
But Matt, he was riding for Haro at the time, and he was going through pretty much a new frame at least every week, maybe every couple days. He would just get a new frame and it would crack. Um and I remember at the time I was telling him, man, you should just make your own bikes. And he was already thinking about it, and I think other people might have been influencing him too. So yeah, the reason he started Hoffman Bikes was because he just wanted a bike that wasn't going to break.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was, at least for me, in the circles I ran in, that was the clearest example of a rider taking over control of his own world and making it happen. He just got sick of having to put a new bike together every few days.
Mm.
I mean, there was a time when I was with him on tour, and he just kept going through bikes. Like in a week or so, he went through like three or something. It was crazy. And so you know, he just wasn't willing to go easy on his riding. He just wanted to just keep pushing it. And so yeah, no, it definitely made a big difference, because the riders, they cared about stuff just being indestructible. And yeah, so now watching Matt kind of go through that was probably the clearest thing for me,
That was probably pretty
example.
cool to see the transition happen where you see him breaking bikes, or you see other people breaking bikes all the time, and then now you're moving towards something that really does hold up.
Yeah, no, it was definitely exciting. Yeah, and then just in general, and what obviously I was close to Matt, so I saw the Hoffman bike thing happening, but Standard and S&M and all these other companies, and you would just see these new parts coming out that you really wouldn't see before. So like some really cool looking bolt that was like super strong,
Yeah.
to where a mass production bike company really wouldn't have cared about that, and so there was a lot of that stuff coming out. And even with the bash guard, the sprocket pocket, the chainring guard, stuff like that. That was definitely rider design stuff. To where it just took a rider to just make it happen. So no, it was definitely great to see the quality get better.
Yeah, how was that perceived when like a totally different way of doing something on the bike came out? Like the difference between the threaded headsets to the pressing and cups and things. Like how did you guys perceive those changes?
Well, it's funny with the headset. I remember looking and going, "What in the world? Like, that's crazy."
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you ride it and it's like, okay, I guess this works. Yeah, no, so it was definitely different. I mean, for the most part, BMX bikes, at least when I was riding, they didn't change a whole lot.
Okay.
There was some stuff that would come out once in a while that was just weird. So like, every once in a while a company might make a bike, and instead of having a top tube and a down tube, it would just have one tube going across.
Mm,
It's like, what the heck is that? Or so stuff that was just kind of, or in the freestyle era, they were just making all kinds of different things to clamp on in every different part of your bike, and it just looked ridiculous. So
yep.
there was a lot of that, but that just kind of naturally came and went, as riders just didn't use it. They would stop making them and stop selling them. And yeah, so but the quality and the weight and just the strength, those are always things that just kind of mattered, all the way around. So yeah, good
Interesting.
good stuff.
Interesting that like you didn't really break a lot of bikes, so it was probably not a lot of something you'd consider because it's like if it's not breaking, then you don't have to think about it breaking.
Yeah, I would break a frame once in a while. I would break forks. It's funny. My big thing was stripping out coaster brakes. So
Oh,
like we would actually take our coaster brakes and like get them welded a certain way,
yep.
and do stuff with that. But yeah, for the most part, I wasn't going huge off of ramps. I would once in a while, but I never, that wasn't like a consistent thing I was doing. So I wasn't too hard on my bikes.
Yeah. Do you remember anything as far as like geometry changing as you rode, or is that even something people thought about yet?
Probably not. I didn't think about it. I mean, it's kind of obvious you would get on a different frame and it's like, this feels weird. And
Yeah.
it was, but no, for the most part, everything was just 20-inch. I know now there's a bunch of different sizes within that 20-inch.
Yep.
But for the most part, no, it wasn't like that back then. You just had your 20-inch or your 16-inch.
Yeah. I
You were a little guy.
Somebody told me before that it was like there wasn't a frame that was a specific geometry or anything. It was just like if you had a frame, it was like it was the GT or it was the Skyway. It not like
Yeah,
today how it's like 20 different frames from each company with all the different geometries.
no, not at all. You would get a certain frame, and you would pretty much ride that for the rest of your life because that was the geometry you liked, but you didn't even know what the word geometry meant. So
Yeah,
it's like the number 20 was really the only number you cared about. 20
right.
inch.
What's so impressive the riding that happened even on bikes that the geometry hadn't been figured out yet. Like today, we have
Mm,
geometry, at least we think we have it figured out for the different types of riding. But back then, if it just is what it is, and you still have Hoffman sending 900s and all the crazy stuff that would happen, it's impressive. And the bikes were way heavier.
yeah, man, that Condor that Matt did the 900 on, that thing is so heavy. And I know it was heavy because I had that. That was the bike I was doing shows in Africa on the dirt with, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like now I see some flatland bike that's specifically made to do flatland tricks. Like, oh, that would have helped. That would have been so much nicer.
Yep.
You
The
know?
flatland bikes that are full titanium with just the light.
Hmm.
It's all the lightest possible thing you can make.
Yeah. No, yeah, I recently saw a titanium bike. It's amazing. It was so light. It's crazy.
Yeah, some of that's insane. I mean, for me, I get on a bike that's too light and it just feels like it's going to go out from under me.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, how long did you keep like really riding for?
I probably rode. So let's see. Right On came out in '92. I probably rode till I probably rode hard in '92, maybe '93, and then '94, '95 is probably when it kind of slowed down,
Hmm.
tapered off,
Okay.
died. BMX was dead.
I guess
Yeah,
so, man, because nobody rides anymore.
that's right.
Yeah.
But no, so, I mean, I've always had I've always owned a BMX bike.
Hmm.
Um, and when I had kids, they would still um, get me to ride once in a while. We, just kind of as a father son thing, or kids would come over to my house and to play with my kids, and then one of my sons would be like, "Hey, Dad, can you come and bunny hop Freddie?" Or something like that. So we definitely have done a lot of stuff like that over the years. During COVID, there was nothing to do around here, so I started riding in a skate park with my son down by my house, and I was able to do some 360s and stuff. It came back.
That's
Some
awesome.
of it
It's like
did.
riding a bike.
Yeah. It's just like riding a bike. Yeah. No, so I still, will play around on it once in a while. Definitely don't try to win any contests anymore or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my mind, I can still do everything I used to do, but my body doesn't agree. So makes it hard. But yeah, it's still fun though.
The fact that you even like are still doing it, you still care about it, and you came to raise even. That's awesome.
That was fun, man. Raise is awesome. I wish I had a raise next door to my house because just the thing about Rays and all those sections, now that I don't have a coaster break anymore, um, it's just fun, And that's definitely the kind of place where anybody could ride, no matter, how not good they are, not skilled they are, But now that place is fun, man. And there's some rhythm, or what do they call them now? Pump tracks.
Yeah.
There's some pump tracks by my house that I've been checking out. I'll probably go and hit those a little more. But yeah, no, it's still fun, man. You still get the same feeling just sitting on a bike and going down the street fast, It's just fun.
Yeah. Do you think you'll come back to raise when all those guys go again next year? This year, I guess it would
Pro-
be.
Probably I'll probably come back there. That was fun, man. A lot of fun.
I hope
Well,
so. Uh,
I'll get dragged back into another living room and have to watch Ride On again or Agro Man or
hey, I
one of
gotta
those.
I gotta watch
That
it
was
with you
funny.
guys.
Here you go.
Um, what was the last BMX video that you ended up making?
Man, let's see. It would have been for GT, so it would have been maybe Dead Sailor.
Oh,
So
okay.
I made Code 4130 and Dead Sailor for GT. Um, I'm thinking it was probably Dead Sailor. After that, I think it was after that we did the Crank episodes.
Mhm.
But as far as like BMX video that would have been remembered as a BMX video, I'm pretty sure it was. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was Lord Volker. So the Dave Volker video,
Mm.
which you probably haven't seen that either. But
I might have seen
it's
part of
okay.
it. Well,
um, yeah, that might have been it. Might have been that one.
that was another funny thing about watching Ride On because there were sections of it where I was like, "Oh, I've seen a little bit of this," because people
Yeah,
will repost stuff like on Instagram or wherever.
everyone rips off my stuff, man. What am I gonna do? It's
That's
all
why you
right.
got to get it all uploaded again at the highest quality so people just choose to watch yours.
Yes. No, it's okay. It's not like anyone's making millions of dollars off of this stuff.
Right.
If they were, I'd come after them.
See you in court.
That's right.
Could you
No,
ever see yourself filming BMX again?
sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that says I'll never do that again, kind of
Mm,
thing. And it's fun. I think it would probably have more to do with who it is and how much fun it is at the time.
yep.
If there's not a large amount of money involved, then it's really going to just come down to, is it just fun? And you know, people keep asking me to do like Agroman 2 or all these. It's like that could be really fun. Um, but I don't know. We'll see.
Just from what I've heard about Aggro Man, it would be hilarious to have another one however many
Yes,
years later.
it would have to be. So at the time, it was um, you know Matt Hoffman, who at the time was just the best, burliest, craziest guy who was Agroman. So we'd have to find whoever that is at the moment, whatever that. So
Hmm.
someone who's willing to pretty much kill themselves for the just stupidity. That's really what it comes down to. I'm
That might be tough.
sure you could think of some guys.
Yeah, maybe. Oh man. Well, Eddie, I feel like we've got a good glimpse of things here, and I've got some homework to do in terms of videos to watch.
Mm,
And maybe when you come back out to Ray's, we'll be able to have a chat again and do another one of
yeah,
these.
fun stuff. Thanks for having me on your show, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm back in the mainstream.
Hey. No, dude, BMX is dead. Sorry.
That's true. All right.
Either way, I'll put your YouTube channel linked in the description down below, and if anybody wanted to check out what you got going on in any other places, where might they look?
Hmm. EddieRoman.com. That's a good place to go.
There you go.
Makes it simple. Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you for doing this,
All right. Thanks for having me.
and I'm just stoked. This went well.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good night,
Thanks, dude.
everyone.